The Soviet Union's reconnaissance aviation evolved rapidly during the Second World War, transitioning from outdated biplanes to purpose-built platforms capable of penetrating enemy airspace at speed and altitude. These aircraft provided critical intelligence on German movements, fortifications, and deployments across the Eastern Front. This inventory examines every reconnaissance aircraft operated by Soviet air forces between 1939 and 1945, documenting their capabilities, operational records, and contributions to Soviet military intelligence gathering. Early war period Soviet reconnaissance aviation entered the war relying heavily on outdated designs from the 1930s. These aircraft, built for an earlier era of aerial warfare, faced immediate obsolescence against modern German fighters, but remained essential due to sheer necessity and numerical availability. Polikarpov R-5. The R-5 was designed in the early 1930s as a general-purpose biplane for reconnaissance and light bombing. Its open cockpit, fabric-covered airframe, and modest speed reflected interwar design philosophy rather than modern combat requirements. The R-5 served extensively during the Winter War against Finland and the opening months of Operation Barbarossa, conducting low-altitude observation missions over frontline positions. German fighters decimated R-5 units during 1941, with losses so severe that the type was withdrawn from frontline reconnaissance by early 1942. The R-5 demonstrated the catastrophic inadequacy of biplane designs against modern air defenses and highlighted the urgent need for updated reconnaissance platforms. Polikarpov RZ. The RZ emerged as an improved R-5 variant with better performance and refined handling characteristics. Built to extend the useful life of the basic R-5 design, it featured a more powerful engine and strengthened airframe for enhanced durability. The RZ operated alongside the R-5 during the initial German invasion, performing tactical reconnaissance for Soviet ground forces despite its vulnerability to interception. Losses mounted rapidly as German air superiority eliminated these slow, lightly armed aircraft from contested airspace. The RZ proved that incremental improvements could not compensate for fundamental design obsolescence in modern warfare. Tupolev SB. The SB was originally conceived as a fast twin-engine bomber, but its speed advantage led to widespread adaptation for reconnaissance duties. Soviet crews removed bombing equipment and installed cameras in modified bomb bays, creating an improvised photo reconnaissance platform. The SB conducted deep penetration missions into German-held territory during 1941 and 1942, relying on speed rather than armament for survival. Advancing German fighter capabilities gradually negated its speed advantage, leading to unsustainable attrition rates by mid-1942. The SB reconnaissance variants proved that bomber conversions could provide interim solutions, but lacked the specialized performance needed for sustained reconnaissance operations. Petlyakov, PE-2. The PE-2 entered service as a dive bomber, but quickly demonstrated exceptional suitability for reconnaissance adaptation. Its high speed, good altitude performance, and versatile airframe allowed installation of comprehensive camera arrays without significant performance penalty. PE-2 reconnaissance variants operated throughout the war, conducting photo missions at medium and high altitudes across all major fronts. The aircraft's combination of speed, defensive armament, and operational ceiling made it one of the most survivable Soviet reconnaissance platforms. The PE-2 proved that well-designed bomber airframes could excel in reconnaissance roles when properly equipped and deployed. Mid-war development Soviet industry began producing aircraft specifically designed or optimized for reconnaissance, reflecting lessons learned from catastrophic early war losses and the need for platforms capable of surviving in defended airspace. Petlyakov, PE-3. The PE-3 was developed as a heavy fighter variant of the PE-2 but found greater success in reconnaissance and night fighting roles. Its extended range and heavy armament provided escort capability for reconnaissance formations and allowed armed reconnaissance missions deep into German territory. The PE-3 operated primarily during 1942 and 1943, conducting both armed reconnaissance and photo intelligence gathering before being largely superseded by improved PE-2 variants. Limited production numbers and the availability of superior alternatives restricted its operational impact. The PE-3 demonstrated that specialized variants could serve multiple roles, but often sacrificed optimization in individual mission profiles. Yakovlev Yak-4. The Yak-4 was designed as a short-range light bomber with reconnaissance as a secondary capability. Its relatively simple construction and good low-altitude performance suited it for tactical reconnaissance supporting ground operations. The Yak-4 saw limited combat use during 1941 and early 1942, primarily conducting visual reconnaissance and artillery spotting missions. Inadequate defensive armament and poor high-altitude performance made it vulnerable to interception, leading to rapid withdrawal from frontline service. The Yak-4 proved that designs attempting to serve multiple roles often succeeded in none adequately. Sukhoi Su-2. The Su-2 was built as a ground attack aircraft, but frequently performed tactical reconnaissance. Due to its excellent low-altitude handling and robust construction, Soviet units installed cameras for battlefield reconnaissance, using the aircraft's armor protection and ground attack armament to survive in heavily defended forward areas. The Su-2 operated extensively during 1941 and 1942, providing close-range intelligence on German positions and movements. Losses to ground fire and fighters eventually forced its retirement, despite its effectiveness in the tactical reconnaissance role. The Su-2 demonstrated that survivability in low-altitude reconnaissance required both armor protection and substantial defensive capability. Ilyushin Il-2. The Il-2 was designed purely for ground attack, but Soviet forces adapted it for armed reconnaissance when tactical intelligence was required from heavily defended areas. Camera installations in armored variants allowed photographic documentation of targets before and after attack missions. The Il-2 conducted reconnaissance missions throughout the war, using its legendary armor protection to survive missions that would have destroyed lighter aircraft. Its slow speed and limited altitude capability restricted use to frontline tactical reconnaissance rather than deep penetration missions. The Il-2 proved that extreme survivability could compensate for performance limitations in specific tactical scenarios. Mature reconnaissance platforms. By 1943, Soviet industry produced purpose-built reconnaissance variants incorporating lessons from 3 years of combat, achieving parity with German reconnaissance capabilities in speed, altitude performance, and sensor quality. Tupolev Tu-2R. The Tu-2R was developed as a dedicated reconnaissance variant of the outstanding Tu-2 bomber. Its exceptional speed, high operational ceiling, and long range made it ideal for strategic reconnaissance deep into German-controlled territory. The Tu-2R entered service in late 1943, conducting high-altitude photo missions that German fighters struggled to intercept. Production limitations meant the type never achieved widespread deployment, but units operating it compiled exceptional mission success rates. The Tu-2R represented the apex of Soviet piston engine reconnaissance design and validated the concept of purpose-built reconnaissance platforms. Petlikov P-2R. The P-2R was a refined reconnaissance variant incorporating combat experience and improved camera installations. Unlike improvised conversions, it featured dedicated reconnaissance equipment, optimized crew stations, and enhanced performance characteristics. The PE-2R served as the standard Soviet medium-altitude reconnaissance platform from 1943 through war's end, equipping dedicated reconnaissance regiments across all fronts. Its reliability, performance, and versatility made it the most important Soviet reconnaissance aircraft of the war. The PE-2R proved that evolutionary development of successful designs could produce world-class reconnaissance platforms. Yakovlev Yak-9R. The Yak-9R adapted the proven Yak-9 fighter airframe for tactical reconnaissance by installing cameras behind the cockpit. Its fighter-level performance allowed unescorted penetration of enemy airspace, while its combat capability enabled self-defense against interceptors. The Yak-9R operated from 1943 onward, conducting low and medium-altitude reconnaissance missions with exceptional survivability rates. Limited camera capacity restricted it to tactical rather than strategic. Reconnaissance roles. The Yak-9R demonstrated that fighter-based reconnaissance platforms could achieve mission success through performance rather than specialized equipment. Lavuchkin La-5FN. The La-5FN was primarily a frontline fighter, but selected units installed cameras for armed reconnaissance missions requiring fighter performance and combat capability. Its exceptional speed and climb rate allowed rapid penetration and withdrawal from defended airspace. La-5FN reconnaissance variants operated in small numbers during 1944 and 1945, primarily supporting offensive operations requiring immediate tactical intelligence. The improvised nature of conversions limited their effectiveness compared to purpose-built platforms. Fighter reconnaissance adaptations proved most valuable when immediate intelligence outweighed comprehensive photographic coverage. Polikarpov PO-2. The PO-2 was an ancient biplane trainer pressed into night reconnaissance service due to its nearly silent approach and extreme, slow-speed handling. Soviet forces used it extensively for nighttime visual reconnaissance, harassment missions, and liaison duties behind German lines. The PO-2 operated throughout the war in the night reconnaissance role, exploiting darkness and low-altitude flight to avoid interception. Its minimal performance actually enhanced survivability by flying below the engagement envelope of German night fighters. The PO-2 proved that obsolete aircraft could remain operationally relevant when employed in specialized roles, exploiting their unique characteristics. Lend-Lease. Aircraft. American-supplied aircraft supplemented Soviet reconnaissance capabilities, providing performance and capability unavailable from domestic production during critical periods of the war. North American A-20 Boston. The A-20 Boston arrived via Lend-Lease, and Soviet forces immediately recognized its value for reconnaissance adaptation. Its speed, range, and payload capacity allowed installation of comprehensive camera arrays for medium-altitude photo reconnaissance. Soviet units operated Boston reconnaissance variants from 1942 through 1945, conducting missions across all fronts with lower loss rates than comparable Soviet types. The aircraft's reliability and performance filled critical capability gaps during periods of maximum demand. The Boston demonstrated the strategic value of Allied material support in addressing Soviet reconnaissance requirements. Douglas A-20 Havoc. The A-20 Havoc, supplied alongside the Boston, served Soviet reconnaissance units in both standard and modified configurations. Soviet technicians adapted Havoc airframes with specialized camera installations for specific reconnaissance requirements. The type operated throughout the middle and late war period, providing reliable service in medium-altitude reconnaissance roles. Its robust construction and good performance characteristics made it popular with Soviet crews despite some maintenance complexity. Lend-Lease reconnaissance aircraft proved essential in maintaining Soviet intelligence gathering capabilities during periods of domestic production strain. Soviet reconnaissance aviation transformed from catastrophic inadequacy in 1941 to rough parity with German capabilities by 1945. This evolution reflected brutal combat lessons, industrial adaptation, and the integration of Allied material support. The platforms documented here provided the photographic and visual intelligence that enabled Soviet operational planning throughout the Great Patriotic War, proving that reconnaissance capability remained as decisive as firepower in modern mechanized warfare.